And I remember pleading with them, how can I fight this? Can I pay for an independent polygrapher? No. Can I do it again? No. There was no recourse. And I remember driving away from that meeting, heading to practice for the last invitational, dejected and sad and frustrated, and even to the point where I questioned whether this is what I wanted to do. You know, do I want to keep pushing forward in a sport where they clearly don't want me? Or at least that's how I felt. But something inside of me, I don't know, you know, it's kind of always been there. I didn't want to give up, and especially not at that moment. You know, this part of my life, it's like it all started coming together. You know, qualifying for the tour felt so good, and everything just started to click. You know, at that same time, I was still fishing the Federation. I was Mr. Bass that year in New Jersey in 1998. I qualified for the divisionals. Through the divisional, I won for my state, and it qualified me to fish the nationals on the Red River in May.
Shreveport Bossier, the gateway to Northwest Louisiana's sportsman's paradise. Riverboat casinos, non-stop gaming action. Louisiana Downs, a top thoroughbred racetrack. The fast lane to fun, frolic, and fishing. That's right, bass fishing. The big-name attractions like Harrah's, Casino Magic, and the Horseshoe Casino grab the tourist attention. But bass anglers are betting on the Red River.
So, you know, when things are rolling like that, it's hard to stop it. And I remember going to the Nationals that year, the Bass Federation Nationals on the Red River, just with an immense amount of confidence. I was married. I had a child at that time. Everything seemed great. Things in my career, in my personal life were rolling. And I went into that national event just almost with a calm.
Bass fishing, a game of change. Adjusting to conditions and seasonal bass movements are building blocks in the foundation of a solid tournament game plan. Mike Iaconelli of New Jersey is well aware most bass are post-spawn.
The water temp's 70 now. It was about 60 3 weeks ago, so they were just about to go on the beds. And what you had is most of these fish were shallow in the very back of this oxbow in 3 or 4 foot of water. So basically what had happened is there's still some bucks up there, and there's still some guys catching those smaller fish. But a lot of these post-spawn females have moved out to this deeper ridge, which basically runs the whole length down the shore all the way to the back. So my pattern in finding bigger fish has been finding deeper water. 7 to 8 foot seems like it's best. We're in 13 right here, so that first inside line has been real good for me.
No newcomer to the Bassmaster Tournament Trail, Mike Iaconelli faced the Professional Invitational Tour, narrowly missing qualifying for the Bassmasters Classic in the Eastern Pro Division.
I'm real confident. I feel real comfortable at this level of tournament. I was a little disappointed. I fell a little short for the Classic this year from the Invitationals. I came in 11th overall. So this would be nice to come in and make it this way. It would be real justifying for me.
After 3 days at the Nationals, I won. And that was a big deal for me at the time, because even though I'd been competing at the Opens and getting a little bit of national attention, winning the Federation Nationals was a big deal from an exposure standpoint.
Mike Iaconelli.
Just sweating it out, but I had a great tournament.
Great fisherman, nice young man, and you got to watch him. He got, look at those 2 big. Unbelievable, he pulled 2 more large bass out the tank. Michael Iaconelli from New Jersey.
His mom will kill me if I don't get this.
Don, are you ready? Oh, I'm ready. Are you ready, Mike?
This
14 pounds, 1 ounce, takes you to the Classic, wins you the Brian Kershaw Memorial Trophy. Watch the scales. Total weight, 5 fish. 14 pounds, 10 ounces. 1410. Mark it, 1410. He did it.
He did it all right. Mike Iaconelli, a 26-year-old New Jersey tackle store manager, a member of the Bass Fever Excaliburs, has hit the Bass and jackpot. Against 50,000 to 1 odds, he's the 1999 Wrangler BASS National Tournament Champion.
And, I won that title, along with a great paycheck, which I needed for the following year fishing the tour, and along with a great trophy and great exposure. The first place winner got a berth to the Bassmaster Classic. So in the same year, I qualified for the tour, I won the Federation Nationals, I won Mr. Bass, and I qualified to fish my first Bassmaster Classic through the Federation that same year. It was unbelievable to go to my first Classic that year. It was in August. It was at the Louisiana Delta. I went there representing the Federation as a New Jersey angler. Nobody expected me to do any good. Nobody expected any of the Federation guys to do good. In the history of the Classic, one guy has ever won the Classic through the Federation, and that was Brian Kershaw.
Brian is the first repeat Wrangler Angler contender for the Bassmasters Classic title.
Come on, Federation! There's the man! He's taking the lead! This will do it, I believe. Do it, Kendrick. 12-14 to take the lead. He's taking the lead! 14 pounds! 1 ounce.
So nobody expected anything. I went there and I had a top 10 finish my first year at the Classic. It was amazing, just the feeling of momentum and the feeling of living a dream and qualifying, and everything was rolling forward. That year was unbelievable and amazing, and as much positive vibes and momentum that I had gone on, there was also a lot of doubt and uncertainty. I think for a lot of fans and people that watch the sport from afar, they think that once you qualify for the tour, that it's a given, right? That things come easy. But things weren't easy. Even though my fishing was going great, I was fishing at a level I'd never fished before, I had a big bill ahead of me for the tour year. I had travel and gas expenses. I had a schedule ahead of me that would take me away from home like never before. I had a newborn at home. I didn't have any real paying sponsors up to that point. I still had my job at Dick's. So, going into the season, the tour season, there was a lot of uncertainty. That year, the tour began in the fall of 1998 in September. We started in Detroit on the Lake St. Clair and the Detroit River. The second event was Lake Champlain. So as much momentum and positive things that were happening, there was a lot of doubt, there was a lot of uncertainty, there was a lot of anxious moments, especially from the financial standpoint. The one good thing that happened is before I started my first tour event in the fall, I was able to work out a deal with Dick's where I left being a regular full-time employee at the retail level, and they decided to move me as a national spokesman. So still working for Dick's, but getting a big-time sponsorship. And it was my first paying sponsor. It for sure was not enough to cover all my expenses, but it was a little comfort in a very uncertain time. My first tournament on Lake St. Clair, I had a really good tournament. I got lucky, I found some fish at the mouth of the river, and I had a top 20 finish in my first tour event. It gave me a lot of momentum going into my second pro tournament I ever fished in my life, and this one was late September of 1998 on Lake Champlain. And the great thing about Lake Champlain is most of the lakes on the tour schedule this year were new. These were places I'd never fished. These are foreign lakes. But Lake Champlain, I knew Lake Champlain. I knew it from my days club fishing on our club vacations. I knew it from fishing the Federation and the Redman tournaments. So I had a certain familiarity with Champlain. I had a certain confidence level there. So going into the second pro event I ever fished in my life on Champlain, I felt good about it. After a 3-day event, 1 day was canceled because of weather, I ended up winning. It was the single biggest thing that had ever happened in my life up to that point, competitively. Yeah, I won a lot of cool stuff. I won the Federation National. I qualified for the tour. They were big moments. But winning the second professional top tour event I've ever fished on Lake Champlain was really surreal. And, you know, Rick Clunn came in second. Rick's my hero. Rick's sort of my mentor from afar. And just to win that tournament, to have him right there with me, it was special.
All right, we're going to weigh him. Watch the weight for Clunn. 22 pounds, 2 ounces. 22.2, Rick, it's close. Give him a round of applause. What an effort. Look at this. Woo! Look at the large mouth. But Iaconelli's 3-day total catch was enough to hold off the always competitive Clunn and claim first place. 61 pounds and 3 ounces. 61.3.
It was the highest high for me. It gave me momentum and direction. It gave me a little validity to sponsors and media. And there were all these positive things that happened with that win. And it was this high point. But over the next series of events and over the next year, things would really start to go down a little bit as well. You know, some of the reality started to kick in after that win. And, you know, the one for sure is tour travel. And, you know, the reality of being gone from home for weeks at a time. And, you know, the sponsor obligations and, you know, all these new things that were taking me in different directions and pulling me. You know, that was a tough one. And really having to try to learn how to manage my personal life with this new business, this new job, it was stressful. That first year on tour, things went okay. I ended up in the top 5 in Angler of the Year as a rookie, which is unheard of. Tim Horton won that year. He was also a rookie. The same year that I was a rookie on tour, you had guys like Aaron Martins and Skeet Reese and Ish Monroe and Edwin Evers. And, you know, it was a great crop of young anglers that year. But I think the reality of stuff really started to set in. You know, my sophomore year on tour, you've heard it called the sophomore slump. Way more challenging and definitely, you know, my performance wasn't as good. Things at home, you know, started to get difficult. We had a second child. And, you know, you could feel by 2001, things, as good as they were from a fishing standpoint, things from a personal standpoint starting to unravel a little bit. And it's almost easier for me now, you know, to talk about it, you know, looking back on it, you know. When it was happening, as bad as it was getting and as much as things were unraveling from a personal standpoint and even from a competitive standpoint, you know, I think you don't realize it when it's right in front of you. You know, almost looking back on it's easier to see and easier to talk about. But 2001, my sophomore season, I had an off year. It was a year that I didn't qualify for the Classic. I missed the Classic in points. And, you know, that's tough because sponsors, I think, start to say, man, was that a one-time thing? Is that a lucky moment? Was he a one-hit wonder? You know, so you have a little bit of that. You know, my peers at the time, that 2001, 2002 era, they still, I'll be honest with you, you know, that body of 100 professional anglers, I was still a weird, strange kid from New Jersey. I was different. I didn't look the same. I didn't act the same. I didn't talk the same. I wasn't running in the same circles. So there was still that standoffishness. And for sure, by 2002, things in my personal life were really starting to come undone. In hindsight, when you don't have a spouse that totally backs you and totally grasps what the life of a professional bass angler means, there's going to be some bad things that unfold. And a lot of it was happening sort of without me even recognizing it at the time. In 2002, it was also a year that I was dealing with some stuff in my family personally that was hard to deal with. That winter, my uncle was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, which, is a cancer that when you're diagnosed with it that late, it's pretty much a killer. There's not a lot of turning back from that stage of cancer. And, I really at that point started to watch my uncle that winter battle this cancer. And man, it was at a time when things were coming unglued. It was a time where I looked at him and his fight with that, and his attitude was so fresh and so positive, and never giving up during the chemo treatments, pushing and fighting. And it was a moment where I think subconsciously I started to realize that, man, as bad as things are, you got to keep going. And it was also a moment where I said, I'm done hiding behind somebody I'm not, right? All those years fishing at the open level and the invitationals and these early years, trying to blend in and trying to assimilate with all the other pros, I was done with that. And it was time for me to let go. And I think, if I can give you an exact moment, it was the spring of 2002. And that year I won an event on Lake Seminole. And it was my second win. And it was such a big win because it sort of quieted some of the naysayers on whether I could compete. I won at Lake Seminole in Georgia. It wasn't a home fishery. And when I won, when I had that camera on me, that moment in that tournament, the camera showed it all.
Yeah, I'm right on that bend, man. They were right on that bend. Yes!
I was emotional. I was excited. I was pissed off when I lost fish. I was freaking out when I landed fish. And it was the first time at a national stage that I was really myself. And so as bad as things were at home with my personal life, I felt like there was a little fire that was ignited to be myself, to keep pushing, to never give up, and to keep rolling with the punches.
Heard you had a bad day, it ain't going your way, yeah, never give up. Heard my life was a movie, I got people trying to use me, I will never give up. It's not about where you at, it's about where you headed. And all the things they say about you only heard if you let it. I gotta put on for the kids, cause they getting the message. I'm on my knees thanking God, look at all of my blessings. Look at little old me doing real big things from a real small town. I'ma make them all proud. And these kids need a leader, I'ma show them all how. Anybody in my wedding, we gon' mow them all down. Hey, from the Garden State, I got some deep roots. Fisherman drip with some new boots. I almost didn't make it, that's the real truth. They call me the general, I got real juice. Pull up in a Bass Cat doing donuts. When I'm at the Classic, the people go nuts. Heard you had a bad day, it ain't going your way. Yeah, never give up. Heard my life was a movie, I got people trying to use me, I will never give up.
I had made a decision at that point, I think it was April or May, to leave fishing. And I was blaming fishing for everything. I was blaming fishing for my marriage, every problem. It was all fishing's fault. And I was so serious that in those months, I went back to rowing. I filled out the paperwork to go back to school. And it was my plan that that fall, I was going to go back to rowing and I was going to go for my teaching certificate. You know, to me, that was the cure. I got to get out of the sport. It ruined my life. It ruined my marriage. I'm going to become a normal dude. I'm going to have a normal job. I'll still get the fish, right? That was my mindset. And I'm serious. I mean, I applied to the program. I got accepted. And that's sort of the mindset I had. It was a bad, dark time for me.
Ice in my veins, I've been driving this train. Years in this lane, there's no stopping this flame. Cause I came to the game and I changed it to play how I like, rearranged it to my own domain. Yeah, I got what it takes, made lots of mistakes, taking shots, skipping breaks, feeling lost, feeling great, popping off, singing straight, never stopped, never changed. All the squad here to play and I've got something to say, yeah. I work hard each and every day, I get lost in the words I say. I don't push pause, no I push play. I won't stop till I make a change.